I know.
I think we're doing this.
I think it's time. Although there's a little powwow going on in the back.
I know, there is a
Cool
little
kids
powwow.
having their little cluster. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. 2022 Annual Pecha Kucha Student Scholarship for the DLF. I'm Sam Trotta. If you don't already know me, I'm the Vice President of DLF. Thank you. Yeah, any applause break we can get. I think everyone here is pretty familiar with the mission of the DLF, what it is we do, why we do it. This event is kind of the shining star of our annual calendar. It's the point of the year where we get to actually kind of lift up certain people who may not yet be in the lighting community, but maybe through events like this and community like this, we can grow and strengthen the lighting community here in Boston. We're happy to be in a position where we can give to the community, we can take students and help kind of further and make the burdens of education ever so slightly lighter. Yeah, so that's what we're doing here today. We're going to take a few moments out of our day to watch these three people give a presentation on this year's topic, which is exposure. They're going to explore that theme, Pecha Kucha style. If you're not familiar with what that means, each presenter has 20 slides. They have 20 seconds to spend on each slide within which to communicate their vision for this year's theme. I think, one thing before I shift things over to Kate, the DLF, we do have something coming up on our calendar next month on the 13th, if you haven't already signed up. Or we did migrate to a whole new email server system that is not finessed. We're working on trying to get our emails out of your junk box. But if you haven't received an invite to our annual bowling event, check your spam filters. It's a good time. It's a great time.
It's on the website too.
It is on the website. That's great. Great
Yeah.
question. Just check it out on our website too. I think almost all of the bowling spots are accounted for. There may be some individual bowlers. They can still sign up, get thrown into a team of people you don't know yet. Or maybe you do know, but you're just lucky enough. Yeah, we got some of the foursome sponsorships went pretty quick. But there are also a lot of spots for non-bowlers. It's a great party. It's a great time. Just come down, hang out, have some drinks with us, have some food. It's a lot of fun. All right, Kate, I'll send you a All right.
My job is mostly to introduce our judges as well. I have a couple of quick bios, and then, for Cofields, I'm just gonna, since I work with him, just say it as it is. Over here, Yvonne Chang is her lighting design journey began designing dance lighting while studying at the University of North Texas. She's fascinated by the ability of light to at once define and transform our perception to present dynamic visual storytelling. Yvonne has designed lighting for performing arts, including new works and regional premieres for theater and multimedia experiential dance. Her interest in creating visceral performances has led her to explore how the impact of light affects people's experience in an environment, which naturally led her to Available Light, which is where she works. So thank you for being here to support this. In the middle, Michelle Tessier, did I say that? Yes. Okay. Is a senior associate at HLB Lighting Design with 10 years of experience in the lighting business. She has also taught lighting courses at the BAC in Wentworth, along with co-coordinating the IALD New England chapter. IALD is the International Association of Lighting Designers. And in her spare time, you can find her catching sunsets or binging Netflix, like many of us. So thank you for joining us as well. And Cofield King so graciously joined the panel last minute, so I thank him for that. So Cofield is a senior associate here at Canon Design, part of our awesome lighting design studio, in-house studio. He has an architectural background and got into lighting about 10 years ago, right? 12, sorry. 12 years ago, and is just, you know, you name something technology-wise, and he's immediately willing to jump on it, and including this live stream maybe that we're doing, but testing it out. So thank you also, Cofield, for joining and being one of our judges.
You should know the live stream is not being witnessed by anybody.
No.
It's just
No.
his little pet project on the side of what's going on here.
Yes.
Don't, no stress. This is
I do
the audience.
apologize, that maybe I'm sorry. I should have.
Fun one. This is the audience.
All right, and I think probably we'll get a good sense of who our three finalists are in the scholarship event. But just to briefly introduce you, this is Morgan. She is at UMass Dartmouth in the interior architecture program. And then we have Jill, and you're at Endicott. Yes, in interior design. Interior architecture as well. Okay. I'm going to have to correct myself in all of these programs now. And then we have Erin, who is at Suffolk University's New England School of Art and Design and Interior Architecture student as well. So we're going to start off with Morgan. I'm going to take a second to get this loaded back here, and then you'll be ready to go.
If I could ask
You are with a very friendly bunch, I will tell you that right now.
Don't want to mess up the live stream.
Should I download this or will it automatically run from Google?
Ooh, that is a good question.
What's the slideshow? Let's see.
That's gotta work. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and this is my DFL presentation on exposure. When I first read the prompt, I immediately thought about photography, and then I developed my thoughts past that. But I'm not going to start with photography. I'm going to take a storyline throughout life experiences, and then eventually bring it all back together. In my essay, I compared lighting to baking a cake.
It may not be progressing.
I was like,
There it is.
oh. In my essay, I compared lighting to baking a cake. In any recipe, you need the ingredients such as flour, eggs, and sugar, and so on. The light, or the actual use of light, would be the ingredients. Without ingredients, you have no cake. Without any light, you can't see anything. And the philosopher Marshall McLuhan once said, a light bulb creates an environment just by its mere presence. Almost everything we do requires lighting. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you do? Let me guess, it's looking at your phone. I'm sure we all know how bright those lights are. And again, everything we do requires light. So I'm sure you weren't expecting this. Everyone sat in a salon chair with their hair slicked down with a cape on and those lights showing every wrinkle, blemish, so that the hairstylist can make you look beautiful. But do we need to be subjected to that? No. But it shows how we use lighting. While the light bulb is the presence of light itself, the ingredients in the cake have different flavorings, just as we have different types of temperatures of light. Are you a chocolate or vanilla fan? Are you a cool light or warm light fan? How we use lighting with cool versus warm changes how we feel. I have noticed over time that guys tend to like cool light compared to women who like warm. This goes along with how it presents in lighting, where women are more choose to go towards design and how we feel, where men are task-oriented and just want to get something done. So, how do we do that? More lighting. So, cool light shows more compared to warm light. But not all light is the same. and it depends how we use it. Take, for instance, the makeup lights that Cher is using, and makeup artists do not like warm or cool light. So they choose to go with day light or white light because it shows all the imperfections that they want to use to cover up, such as dancers getting ready for a performance. Each light has a different purpose and it's not created equal in the way we use it. Now, to go on, icing on top of the cake is like the decorative lighting. We all think of light fixtures when we think of light. The icing. It brings the whole design together, just as the icing on top of a cake. And when we think of decorative lighting, we think of light fixtures or a table lamp, this and that. But I chose to go with the most important decorative lighting is Christmas decorations and Christmas lighting. The best feeling you can have is when you're sitting next to a Christmas tree with a nice book, some music next to the fireplace, and you have this nice relaxing feeling where you get the warm glow from the Christmas lights and the Christmas trees. To go further, you can take the candles that have a ceremonial presence, such as a prayer candle, or it can be as simple as putting candles on top of a birthday cake to create a warm glow and ambiance. All these between Christmas lights and candlelight show you all the different aspects that you can use lighting in. And finally, now we get to enjoy our cake. After we've baked it, put the icing on, discuss what flavors we want, we get to bake it and have a slice. That is the, in comparison, is how we use lighting in day-to-day life. And for instance, in this situation, we have a band, say we have Fish, who is more of a jam band. They use lighting to help emote a experience and feeling, compared to, say, Aerosmith, who is more of a performing band, where they use lighting to show off the band members and their actions. Each are the same type of lighting, but they're used in a different way. Here, we use photography and bring it all full circle. Photography uses different exposures. You can have darker light or brighter light, and it makes how the lighting comes out in the picture. Here I took a photo inspired by Sally Mann, a photographer who uses glass plates. The glass plate is used in the old cameras that slide in and then you click the button. It gives a different exposure. Here I left my camera on a timer and opened up the lens to allow more light into the camera to give more exposure. Just like in the concert and in photography, lighting has a way of setting the mood. Here we have lack of exposure, and it gives the feeling of a creepy, unsettling feeling where you don't want to be in, don't want to walk down that alley. And this can be contrasted where you have more exposed lighting, such as in a brighter basement compared to the darker basement, or the brighter street compared to the darker street. You feel more comfortable walking down those two or going into them because of the presence of the exposure of light. It gives you a more settled feeling. And in the end, Heidi Klum once told a photographer, no, this is not good lighting. You see this light up here? It's not good for photography. And just to wrap it all together, I wanted to go off that and say, making sure you know how light exposure affects a room, a design, and how it affects you as a person will make you a better designer, artist, and baker. And we are constantly exposed to lighting, is it through sunlight or through fireworks. No matter when, we will always have a presence of lighting and be exposed to it. So why not embrace it? I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity and appreciate all of it. Does anybody have any questions?
Well done. Well done.
We'll do some changing behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
I was about to.
Does it make sense to do PowerPoint? I mean, PowerPoint go into the presentation. Sorry, I wasn't thinking about that. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my goodness.
Oh no.
All right.
Okay. So there are a few animations that I also included. So I can just like point or something if you're okay with that.
Point to.
Like just to click again because there's an animation.
Sure.
Okay. So to begin, my name is Jillian Hersey, and I'm a senior at Endicott College in the Interior Architecture program. And a little fun fact about me is my dad's actually an electrician, so the lighting world has a close place in my heart. I always hear about it. And this is my Pecha Kucha presentation about exposure. Okay, and to begin, when I first read the prompt, I was trying to figure out what approach to take, because there's so many ways that design and exposure have a relationship with each other. So I took this photo that I actually took on vacation and used exposure as a tool to edit the photo. And I thought about the definition and translated that into user experience. It's a bigger, broader idea. It's one of the design drivers that brings out lighting in the design. So I took user experience as the main idea and broke it into 4 different categories. Each category displayed here: personal experience, functionality, visual experience, and comfort are the top 4 categories that relate to exposure and how and when and where exposure should be used within your design. Take this for example. The lighting from the natural light collaborates with the design of the ceiling to create this exposure. So the relationship between exposure and design is always there, no matter what materials or functionality that you want in the space. There's always going to be that relationship between one another. This is another example, structural beams. Choosing to use exposed beams is one way that a space can have more character, more strength, or stability in the look and feel. It's another way that exposure and design are connected. Another opportunity is during the site analysis phase. This, for example, is the sun path of 4 different times of the year. And there are different examples like site views, surroundings, infrastructure, nature, acoustics, and more, where design and exposure are related. Going off of site analysis, this is 4 different times of daylighting shown. It's another consideration that designers have to think about, the changing of exposure over time, how things can affect one another, how everything's connected. So the shadows are cast at different points of the year. And then going off of that, it's in addition to design-specific decisions related to exposure, exposing ourselves to education, art, culture, and history is extremely important, because collaborating and learning from those things will get us to a better design. Press again. And the next topic is level of exposure. So as you can see in my top design, the level of exposure in the atrium wanted to be really high. So we had a lot of glass, and same with the healing guarding on the edge. The first topic, going off of that, is too much exposure. That's a really strong consideration. Everyone, I'm sure, has gone to a restaurant where a hostess walks up to you and she says, "Oh, do you want the booth or do you want the table in the middle?" And that overexposure, it's a level of comfort for you. You want to be able to eat and relax in peace while you're at a restaurant enjoying a nice meal. The next category is amount of sunlight. It's another way that exposure needs to be considered, because buildings exposure to the sun plays a large role in comfort based on temperature and visibility. Think about it as a sunburn. When you're exposed to the sun for too long, it can harm your skin, it can cause pain or damage. A building is the same way. When you have too much exposure to the sun or too much light, it can cause harm or trouble to the users of the space. For example, I'm sure some of you have experienced in your work environment where you sit next to a window and the sun is beaming down on your laptop computer and you can't read it or see it. A simple design solution such as a shade or a window covering can completely get rid of that problem. So that's why designers need to get to the root of the problem. Also in relation to sun exposure, window location, budgeting, lighting, building orientation, programming, and sustainable solutions are all ways that designers can get to a successful design. Basically just thinking about the whole picture, everything that comes into play related to exposure. And the last topic is materiality. So a building that has this color palette and relating to how much exposure you want to have. So like that brick wall, if you want to expose the natural material, it's going to give a totally different look and feel in comparison to a gypsum wallboard. For example, this was a in-home renovation that I completed during COVID, and it shows how exposure to lighting and exposure to material can completely transform one of the spaces. One is more dense, heavy, a lot less lighting, and the other one's a lot more light and airy. Going off of that, finish and furniture selection is another way that exposure can come in relationship with design. This, for example, is a ceiling that's highly decorated and portrays the user, the client's needs. It shows the wealth and the power of the church. A similar ceiling that has the same sort of purpose looks completely different based on level of exposure and materiality that's selected. But in conclusion, a unique design is so extremely important. No two projects are the same, like the last three images. They're all very similar, they have the same purpose. But you need to consider within a space, the most important design decisions have a direct relationship to exposure and will inform the design approach of when and where to choose, reveal, and conceal elements. And I just wanted to say thank you, and if you have any questions or comments, let me know.
So to start, just a 20-second introduction. My name is Erin Holmes. I'm a second-year graduate student at Suffolk. Just a couple of slides from some past semester work. I'm a career changer. I was in web and UX design for about 20 years before going back to school for interior architecture. I live in Kennebunkport, Maine with my husband and 3 kids, June, Graham, and Penelope. So thinking about exposure, I actually split my presentation into 4 sections. First, kind of what it means to me, and next, what it means in terms of materiality. I also wanted to think about design or lack of design, and then lastly, what it means when we're talking about letting the light in. So reading right from my essay that I submitted, the idea of exposure sounds risky and exciting at the same time. At its core, it means vulnerability. At its root, it means to uncover. In life, this isn't always our choice, but as designers, we can decide to control this. To let the light in or not, some of it or all of it. Next, exposure means timing, strength, and truth, allowing all the light through or shuttering it down to almost none. It can be out of our control, like the sun's position, but we can choose to use it as a powerful ally or be creative in blocking its strong rays. And my last thought was the design of light and shadow can be controlled by our choices, and we can use it to our advantage. It can also reveal the details, the raw material, the actual surface, the imperfection. If we use it to our advantage, it can be artistic and accommodating. So those were just some images that I thought illustrated my thoughts there. The next slide is the MIT chapel, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with, but I had the opportunity, our professor took us this fall to go see it, and it was really a spiritual experience, which it's meant to be, with the exposure coming down from the roof and then playing off that beautiful sculpture that's surrounding the altar. This next slide is an architect that was introduced to me this past fall, Luis Barragan, and this is his home in Mexico City. And I just loved the variation between day and night, and also the materiality of that painting sitting at the top of the stairs and how it comes down, how it affects those two, affects the spaces. This is actually a slide from work I did last fall. We designed a cultural center. I chose Ireland, and I wanted to bring in Connemara marble, which is indigenous to Ireland, and create these walls and structures, and then use lighting to kind of highlight that materiality. This is a project up in Portland, Maine. It's called the Danforth. And I just really liked this, the way that they created zones using materiality as well as lighting. So they wanted to create 3 different zones in the space and use it for day and night use. I included a sectional diagram for this as well, because I just thought, well, I love sectional diagrams, but also it just really highlighted how they created those 3 zones, moving into the bar, and then you step down into the lounge, and then in the back they had that patio that had some exposure there as well. So changing gears a little bit, excuse me, this is a shot of LA where they're dealing with, obviously we're all dealing with a climate issue, but also possibly an income equality issue when we're looking at different neighborhoods in LA, where in this shot here we see someone waiting where there's literally no shade or tree canopy to cover. Something they're working towards fixing now, but in just terms of thinking about design or lack of design. In contrast, we have another neighborhood in LA. A former architectural critic said, pockets of beautiful urban design, fair to say, not distributable in every way. In contrast, then, we moved to New York City. This is one of the shadiest spots in that city, where obviously they have a lot of tall skyscrapers that provide a lot of shade, maybe too much shade. It receives no direct sunlight on the winter solstice, which I found pretty fascinating. And then in terms of design, this is when people took things into their own hands. So in Puerto Rico, there was no shade, and the people on the street decided to take it upon themselves to use these umbrellas to create their own, which they did quite a beautiful job with. This project I found recently, the Leaning House in Korea. They wanted to take advantage of the southern exposure, but they also wanted to take advantage of the lake views nearby. So they literally just took that mass and tilted it. And I just thought that was a really interesting way to solve for that issue. This is also a sectional diagram here, so you can see how it was done and how the rooms are interconnected. They also wanted to keep this within the typography of the land. Moving on to a cafe in Tehran Square. Using the traditional Iranian arch, they actually just pulled that from the front all the way to the back. So I loved how they did that. There's some daylight exposure coming in, but then they used this arch to bring all this light, even if it's artificial light, through to the back of the cafe. And that also created some zones within the restaurant. These are shots from a longtime friend and architect, Bob Adams. It's a hillside house in California, and I just loved how he used those transom windows in the top hallway there, and then cut away on the interior walls to let that light down into the open living space down below. And another project from Iran, Again, I loved these arches, not just because they're so beautiful, but they have a real functionality to them. So the arches on the roof help with the sun exposure, and then inside, the dry heat coming up can escape through a window nearby. And my last slide is going back to my ancestors in Ireland, where there was a glass tax at one point, so they had to make their windows smaller or non-existent. I love that they just got creative and they cut their doors in half. They live their light in that way. And that is the end of the presentation. Thank you.
I want to thank you three for presenting to us. It's always a brave thing to get up in front of strangers and kind of let your ideas spill out in front of them like this. The judges are going to excuse themselves and maybe have a little bit of deliberation. They're going to tear you guys apart. So yeah, if you guys want to, and it's going to, what did we say, Kate, like 10 minutes? 20? 10. Is that going to be sufficient for you guys?
Sure.
You'll be able to dialogue?
We'll see.
We'll
figure it out. We'll make it work.
And there's food for anybody who did not yet eat. There's some drinks, there's alcohol, non-alcoholic.
Yeah, if you three want to get a drink, well, to help with this waiting period. Everybody else also welcome to have some snacks, have some wine, water. Maybe say hello to our presenters today, get to know them a little bit. Now that they've got their jitters out, we're on the other side of Hi, how are you? Yes.
Should we just go and enjoy it, or do you have to go through a process?
No problem. So, I can send you. So we'll do our best to practices and basically not to tell you some of them they're she was easing
Oh no!
Funny experience. My boyfriend, he's like, I love you. And he's like, can you tell? But cookie's not one of them. It's not your top one. I do sometimes, but I'm a person that I'd rather be in the garden than baking, but it just I've always said, looking at lighting, and I love looking at like any place I go, and I'm just like, it's sort of this whole area of that brings everything together. It's like the vision of being framing. So,
Like it's my job.
I was there, I was like, yeah. Well, yeah, when I got the pop, I was like, oh, I don't know what do I do. It took me a second to pull it over to figure out, like, okay, what direction to head.
So Katie, yeah, we're gonna, they've done it. We're on the other side of the adjudication. We're gonna let y'all know what's happened.
So we figured we would give our judges a chance to give some of their feedback and highlights that they wanted to let you all know about. So you can do that, and then we will announce after that.
So, okay.
Oh, sure. I think we all sort of had the feeling that, Morgan, you did a really good job tying yours back and through and keeping the story going. And I thought that sorry, my notes are not well written. Good energy. There we go. Okay, and then we had Jillian, and the animations were great, and I thought that helped, keep you in that 20 seconds, your mind working through the slide. And Aaron, I really enjoyed some of those architecture images that I'd never seen before, and they were quite inspiring.
Yeah, so Morgan, I would say, same point, I thought you had a good cadence with your slides and you kind of tied it all together. Jillian, I thought that your graphics were really interesting and how you, while you broke it into sections, they still complemented each other. And then Erin, I thought that your images were very provoking and very inspiring to your original, your first couple of paragraph sentences.
Yeah, we discussed highlights, so our highlights are going to be very similar. So yes, Morgan, I feel like I can feel your excitement during your presentation. I feel like I can connect with you very well when you were presenting. And your story is very complete in the sense that, and I feel like it's very original. It's like a wonderful idea that you took like baking and tell this story to us. So I thought that was great storytelling. And I feel your, sorry, actually don't have my notes. So Julian, I feel your PowerPoint was the most tied together, and the graphic helps your momentum of your presentation. So, and a lot of it did illustrate like your point and was very supportive to what you were saying. So I think that you have done a very good job with that. And Aaron, I think you were very articulate during your presentation, and all of the project that you have like presented give me a sense of like inspiration, and I can feel like your passion through like the different projects that you're seeing, and you are very good at pointing out which part of the project that inspired you, and I think that was very clear.
And I will just add that for anybody who wasn't familiar with the process, these three individuals did submit essays prior, and a group of the designers on the DLF board chose them as the top 3 finalists already. So they've already risen to the top, and we are proud of you all, and really are thankful that you are here with us tonight. So thank you.
Say the wrong things.
All right.
All right. So we have had a little bit of critique. We've had some presentations, some wine, some pizza. Now is the time to kind of let everybody know rankings, I guess is the word. Our third place recipient of this year's scholarship is Jen Hershey. Thank you very much. Fantastic job. Second place this year, we have Aaron Holmes. Thank you, Aaron. Fantastic job. Which means, Morgan, thank you so much for involving. I think we were talking just a minute ago, you did not feel very confident, it didn't sound like. But congratulations on getting our top class this year. the DLF. It's not easy for the judges to kind of pick and choose.
I was thankful I wasn't a judge this year. That would have been very tough for me. Very tough.
So we'll reach out to you guys and get you the scholarships. Yeah, so enjoy. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Yes, thank y'all so much.
What's that? Sums of money that I can't remember the line of. Hold on, I was going to look it up, and it didn't occur to me to look it up until the routine was going on. And that would have been very rude to pull out my phone at that moment. So let me just look that up. You guys all know what it is? Do you remember? Yeah, free tuition for life. Oh my goodness. Hold on, I have to go now. Sorry.
Let's see if I can pull it up.
Yeah. What's that? It's in the email, but I couldn't pull it up. Let's look up the events. Oh, and it's not in the. Goodness.
You gotta fire us. It's not in the set.
Sorry, this is really embarrassing. Let's- oh, we got
It's the most suspenseful part of the night.
the- Yeah.
Our suspense was earlier.
Why don't I have this? Oh wait,
I found it.
you did?
Please,
Thank
Stephanie
you.
for the win.
Thank you
Stephanie for the
so
win.
much. Wait, I also found it, so that. No, please, go right ahead. No? You don't want to see my hand? All right. John, $1,500.
Wait, say that, I didn't hear.
Sorry, $1,500, $2,500, and $3,500. 6.5 minutes presenting, hours of figuring out what an open-ended like exposure really means. And yeah, and you get to meet some members of the community. It's really nice to have everybody here. Thank you all for showing up. And being here.
I will just say, my first lighting teacher is here in this room. One of my second lighting teachers is here in this room, and that's how I got into lighting design, and so it can happen. You can run a studio.
That's a good point.
We're very proud of you. I'm saying it's like good.
Yeah, I feel like, and maybe everyone in this room can attest to it as well, a lot of us fell into lighting.
Yeah.
We didn't set out to get into lighting. We found something that, we started down a path, whether it was a path of passion or something kind of blasé, and you encountered lighting on that voyage and it just took you off track. And here we all are. It's not something that we ever kind of set out to do, except for those people who are multi-generational. I don't know if we have any in this room, but sometimes people are born into lighting. And whatever, man, they're okay, I guess. But those of us that found it organically, I mean, how cool is that? And that's where all your people get into lighting and they stay in lighting, because I mean, once that world has been opened up to you, it's hard to turn it off and shut it up.
Yeah.
So maybe, hopefully, this is your moment. We'll see.
We should take a photo.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. You got it.
After walking in there, right?
let's do it again, because they have the scholarship.
It's not ideal.
Guys.
You want us to
Yeah,
stick your
it's
finger?
not that
Yeah, that's
big. So, and then, yeah, in the morning, I'll just.
Cool, cool, cool. All right. You got
I know.
I'm saying I think
It definitely